Karl Wells, and this is Summer Scene from St. John's, and this is the first of 7 Summer Scene programs that I'll be doing, and this program is coming to you from Corner Brook, Labrador City, and Goose Bay, and St. John's, of course, during the summer months this year. Now, my guest on this program today is Kelly Russell, formerly of Figgy Duff, formerly of the wonderful Grand Band, and now on his own and running his own production company, Pigeon Inlet Productions. And by way of introduction, I'd like to read something from the July issue of Atlantic Insight magazine, which did a piece on Kelly. At 26, Russell is accomplished beyond his years. Besides the fiddle, he also plays dulcimer, bouzouki, and concertina. When he isn't performing, he teaches violin in his home, compiles and transcribes tunes, and produces albums of Newfoundland music. For him, recording the jigs and reels of his forefathers is just as important as playing them. I'd like to begin by asking you something on that note. In 1978, you spent a whole year traveling around Newfoundland collecting the traditional fiddle tunes of Newfoundland. You felt a very strong need to do that. Can you tell me something about your feelings before you made the trip and your impressions during that year on the road?
Well, Karl, the reason that I wanted to do such a trip, I became aware through playing with Figgy Duff. We travel out around the island to many of the small communities, playing mostly Newfoundland music, and began to become very apparent to me that Newfoundland music was not as popular in Newfoundland as it should be. You would think that you know, a province that has its own traditional music, everybody would be very proud of it and everybody would be playing it. But unfortunately, I found that wasn't the case. And you know, a lot of the old fiddlers, I was particularly interested in fiddle music, being a fiddle player, and a lot of the old fiddle players had stopped playing this music. I discovered that, say, 15, 20 years ago, with the coming of radio, television, a lot of outside influences, you know, the country and western music and rock and roll and that sort of thing. A lot of the younger people were sort of casting aside Newfoundland music in favor of, you know, things from the outside. So it began to look to me like we were about to lose this very valuable kind of music. So my intention was to record a lot of it. At first it wasn't good quality recordings, just a small little tape recorder. But the idea was just to get this stuff on tape so that I could learn it myself and thus at least keep a small bit of music going.
What kind of reaction did you get from the people? How did they react to this young fellow coming in with a tape recorder asking to record fiddle tunes?
I think surprise was the first reaction of a lot of people, and shyness as well, because a lot of these people hadn't played in a long time. As I said, it had been 15 or 20 years for a lot of them since they touched the fiddle at all. Maybe pull it out at Christmas for a bit of fun, but really they hadn't played, so consequently they were very rusty, couldn't play very well. I had an advantage in that I could play, so that I would play a few tunes and that would kind of spark their memory, and oh, I know that one, and then they'd take the fiddle, and pretty soon we were going right to it.
Is there an area of the province where you got more material than others?
The West Coast, most definitely. Yeah, the Port Peninsula is very rich in traditional fiddle music, accordion music as well, and songs. And the Northern Peninsula, there's a lot of fiddle players up there too.
Did you discover Rufus Ginchard and Emile Benoit? In other words, are you responsible for them getting their initial provincial exposure? Oh,
I wouldn't say no. Both of them really were discovered. It all kind of happened around the same time. I'd say between 1972 and 1975. In those years, like groups like Figgy Duff were starting to form, and Rufus actually first came into town with the Breakwater Boys and played with them for several years, and it was through his exposure with them that I came to meet him. And actually Wilf Wareham, I have to give Wilf the credit for first turning me on to Rufus. He lent me a tape from the folklore department, and I heard Rufus, and that was actually the first time that I realized that there was really some good Newfoundland fiddle music.
So Rufus wasn't one of the people you ran into in that year in 1978 when you traveled around?
I did visit him when I traveled around, but I had met him before.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
You met him before that.
Yeah.
Now, you learned some technique from Rufus, I guess.
Well, most definitely. I've certainly learned a lot of tunes from him, and his bowing technique is quite different. Like if you were to compare Rufus Ginchard and Emile Benoit, you know, they both live on the same part of the island in Newfoundland, both on the west coast, but they're worlds apart in their styles of playing. It's completely different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did you yourself have any formal music training?
Not in the fiddle. I had piano lessons when I was young, so I learned to read music. So I did have a sort of a technical understanding of music, but I learned the fiddle by ear.
I see. But your formal training, of course, stands you in good stead because you're actually in the process of transcribing.
That's right.
This material
yeah.
now.
Yeah. Well, once I learn a tune, I can write it down in music, and that's as a result of my early training.
Right. Was that one of the reasons why you started your production company, Pigeon Inlet Productions?
Well, I kind of see Pigeon Inlet Productions as an extension of what I did in '78 with the collecting. At that time, I was just, you know, taping people on a very inferior quality machine, and it was really almost for my own purposes, so that I could learn the tunes and have a repertoire of Newfoundland material and be able to play it myself. Whereas the thing with Pigeon Inlet Productions is actually getting good quality recordings of these people and putting it on albums and making it available to the public. So that's taking the whole thing a step further.
We've got some of your albums here. Perhaps we can show one of the covers. This is one called Tradition. Tell us about this one.
Well, that's the latest production for Pigeon Inlet, and it's the 14th album actually that we've put out. And this album, unlike all the other ones, is actually an anthology of different people. It, oh my goodness, there's everybody on it.
It says on the back here.
Yes, well, Rufus Ginchard, we were talking about Rufus and Emile, they're both on it. They do a selection each. Pamela Morgan, the singer with Figgy Duff, does a song, Newfoundland song. Figgy Duff, the group, is on it. Uncle Mose does a story. Everybody knows Uncle Mose. Lem Snow, he's a composer of songs. He lives in Lewisport. It's another octogenarian. And Lem does a song there. The group Tickle Harbour, a new group, Bark and Kettle. There's a lot of different people on it.
Now, what other things is Pigeon Inlet Productions involved in?
Well, mostly it's album production, Karl. We've had 4 albums come out this year, as well as the Tradition album. Myself and Jim Payne, who is my musical partner, Jim and I released an album, and Lem Snow has an album of all his own material. It's been mostly album production. I've done a book on Rufus Ginchard, but that's not actually a Pigeon Inlet production. That's Harry Cuff Publications has put that out.
Is writing, by the way, another talent of yours? Do you like writing?
I don't think so, not really. Rufus's book, it's just a very small sketch of, you know, a biographical sketch of his life, and it's just written in a very simple style. There's nothing elaborate. I wouldn't really consider myself a writer. No.
Your father, of course, was a great writer.
Yes, there was the writer, yeah.
So you don't think you inherited any of that writing ability?
I don't think so, no, no.
Was he, by the way, a musician as well?
No, no, not at all. No, Dad didn't play an instrument. He appreciated music, but couldn't play or sing or anything like that. The only parallel I could really draw is that in his writing, he preserved a tremendous amount of the old Newfoundland way of life. And I guess with me and my music, I'm attempting to do the same sort of thing, keep the old music alive.
Right.
So there's a parallel.
And of course, you have produced LPs of the Uncle Mose Chronicles.
Yes, there's 2 albums of the Chronicles of Uncle Mose.
Right, because we've all seen those in the stores. You're teaching fiddle playing now.
Yeah.
I read in this article I referred to earlier that you have performed with one of your students.
Yes, I have a student. His name is Colin Carrigan. Colin's 11 years old. He's been coming to me now for about 3 years, and he's oh gee, he can pick up a tune as quick as I can. He's quite good. I have several other students now who are up and coming as well. They're catching on pretty fast.
So the fiddle playing may not die.
I don't think it's going to die at all.
It's going to carry on if you have anything to do with it.
I certainly think so, yeah.
Right. Kelly, you